Alrighty, we are recording. Welcome everyone to the San Diego Patriots podcast. This is episode 32. And, for those of you who are new to this podcast, this is really a platform for, us to bring people together, real community effort, try to do something positive for the next generation. One of the common themes, as Mr. Gabe knows, is I've been interviewing successful Americans. So, finding successful people, hearing their stories, lessons learned, mistakes that they've made, and really trying to extract wisdom to share to the next generation so they can find their own path to success and hopefully suffer less. But before we get into our today's special guest, Mr. Mo, you may recognize Mr. Gabe here to my left from episode 30. Gabe and I are going to be partnering together in the foreseeable future to tap into his network of entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors, everything in between, and just really hear their success stories. So Gabe's up to some exciting he's built. So we'll first start by just hearing a little bit about, what that community is.
Yeah. So thanks for the introduction, Lee, and thanks for being here today, Mo. Really appreciate that. So I started thinking about this a few years ago, about as I was aging, how difficult it was, as friends transition in and out of your life, whether they have families, kids, careers, girlfriends, wives, whatever it may be. You kind of yearn for that male camaraderie, like hey, let's get together, let's hang out, shoot the shit, let's do some fun things together without any pretense of like this has to be planned out. I'm more of a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. I don't like necessarily being required to go to certain things every week and have some sort of attendance minimum. So initially I started this group in my building that kind of grew out. We call it San Diego MadSDMen. Initially we're getting together every 2 weeks and just basically having steak, cigars, and scotch because I figured who wouldn't want to do that on a Wednesday night when there's not a lot going on, right? We started to gain a lot of traction, because there are a lot of guys, especially as they move down here from other cities or, move to a new building or whatever it may be that want to make male friendships again and hang out, talk business, talk life, talk about wives, girlfriends, kids. My thoughts, processes in that is, when it comes to business, especially, you do business with the people you like, right? And what better way to get to know people than by spending one week or one night every 2 weeks with them, grill some steak, shoot the shit, keep it very casual. It got so big, especially I'm kind of one of those people that I'm a social butterfly, so I meet a lot of different people, and I have no pretenses on like who I meet and what they're about, right? So a lot of guys started to show up, from outside. We even have guys that come all the way around from Temecula, La Mesa, a lot of different places that come down. And so we eventually moved it to once a week, which is huge. So now we're doing it every week. We just hit a year in January, which is really, really cool for us. And we have about 177 guys active and about another 15 to 20 that, pop in here and there on a side chat, which is huge for us. And what I like to see is like everybody make their own friendships and establish their own business relationships, right? Because every single member in that group knows me in some way from somewhere. And now we're getting a lot of guys that are coming as friends of friends. Everybody's establishing their own friendships, and that's really important to me. I want to see our guys succeed, and I think this is something that could be huge nationally. We have guys that have already moved away from San Diego that want to start San Diego MadSDMen in a different city, which is really cool. So we're looking at Miami, Sacramento, San Francisco, and New York right now, and we already have a few guys positioned out there to start kind of growing a grassroots group out there before we kind of formalize that. So there's a lot of cool things that we're doing, and I appreciate you, working with myself and the rest of the guys on the team here to, get some outreach out there about our group, our members, and what we do. I think this is going to be huge for the community, especially for people all across the nation, all guys that need some help with anything they may need. And the goal is to turn this into an organization that's going to be beneficial for all men across the country of all types, That's the goal there, so...
Yeah, and it's all super positive stuff. I mean, it's like we always joke about it, but sometimes we're just shooting the shit, messing around, and other times we're giving business advice, or you guys are a little older than me, and I fucking learned a lot just having informal conversations. Yeah, dude, it's awesome, man. So it's super exciting stuff. And, again, it's all positive. It's all aimed at like, hey, we've all found our own success, but we've also made our mistakes, fair share of it, right?
Yeah.
So, but teaching the younger generation, it's okay to screw up so long as you pick yourself back up and kind of keep moving forward. So I love the brainstorming and the ability to just kind of share life experiences.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, which brings us to today's special guest, Mr. Mo. I know. I think we met a couple of weeks ago at the Halo LAN party. Doritos, Mountain Dew, and it's funny. We linked up, and I was like, man, who's this crazy looking motherfucker? Like with tattoos, and we bonded over tattoos, and we found out we both like Jordan Peterson. So I find you a hustler, man. You got an interesting story, and I thought you'd be an awesome dude to start with.
Well,
so introduce yourself, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I remember talking your ears off last time we hung out. So thanks for having me again. Well, my name's Mo. It's short for Mohammed Usman Hussain Ghori. Came from Pakistan in 2005 to the country. Main goal was just to check out the country, make a name for myself, make some money, and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which is what people come to America for, and then became a different thing. And I came to the US to study economics and mathematics, and my life after, let's say, 20 years of being in this country, my life took a different direction. And now I'm a strength and conditioning coach. And I got in this game when I was 30 years old, when I would say, I was 10 years younger, but in my mind, I was 20 years younger. And my brand became Grandmaster Gains, which is like tattooed on my head now. I've gone past the gains part, but it kind of stuck, so I go by Grandmaster Gains now. And my whole idea is to get people strong from the outside in. And this whole keep it juicy thing is about, when I say juicy, I'm talking about keeping it precise and consistent in the gym. And I feel like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you move in the gym with precision, you're going to move outside the gym with precision. And what I specialize in is working with business professionals like yourself, but mostly older men who have a family, who have a business, who in their 40s and 50s, and they've focused on the very important stuff like family and business, but a lot of times their health declines. And the reason for that is not because it's hard, not because they're not consistent or disciplined, because if you have a long-term relationship, if you're a father and you're a business owner, you have all those tools. You are consistent, you are disciplined, you are hardworking, you have pain tolerance. But the reason why you're not where you're supposed to be, and when I say supposed to be, if you're excelling in business, excelling in your family life, you should be excelling in your fitness too. You just have incorrect information. And the way I thrived in business is by hanging out with those guys who are successful in business. I learned their superpowers, and now they're learning mine.
Yeah.
So that's my brand.
Yeah, and one of the things that, and maybe we'll just adjust your mic a little bit, but sorry about that.
No worries.
And one of the things that I love that you and I were really bonding over was, for people that, and a lot of men, in my view, I think every man goes through some shitty time in their life where they feel really fucking low, they're kind of depressed a little bit for one reason or another. And I remember you said something that stuck with me that said, you said, hey, if you're dealing with mental health issues, like, go get fucking ripped. And if you get fucking ripped, you will literally feel better about yourself and all of a sudden start to maybe feel motivation to start making the necessary changes or start to, do whatever you need to kind of work your way out of it. And I thought, damn, it's a good idea because, people, again, struggle with issues for their own reason, but something that's within their control is their fucking health and fitness. Go get ripped and you will start to feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree, because like everything that you have to do to get in shape, all those changes that you make are going to be directly affecting your mental health as well. And like, I follow a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of success coaches, and the thing that I personally don't respond to is everything sounds very, very hard, and it's not exciting. Like when you think about making changes to have a better life, making more money, having just better health, you start focusing on like all the stuff that's hard. Like, you have to be disciplined. You have to say no to alcohol. You have to not hang out with the wrong people. And like David Goggins stuff. Now, he's awesome. He's jacked. He's the shit. But, bro, it doesn't need to be that fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like, over the last 10 years, I had to put in a lot of work and manage my time, be very particular about who I'm hanging out with, which is why when my friend Drew told me about this group, he was trying to sell me on it. I'm like, bro, I'm already in. You said successful. You said men.
Community.
And community. Like, I'm in it. And the way I thrive is just by changing my surrounding, hanging out with the right people. But when you start breaking it down into all these steps, it just is overwhelming. So I always talk about, why not just think about one douchey, superficial goal and just focus on it. I'm going to get shredded. Oh, that's exciting. I'm going to look good with my shirt off. That's exciting. All right, let's focus on this goal. But what do you have to do to accomplish that goal? All right? If you're eating like shit, you have to eat a little bit better. If you sleep like crap, you have to sleep a little bit better. If you're hanging out with shitheads, you have to cut that down a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're indulging in alcohol and substance abuse, you have to cut that down a little bit.
Doesn't have to stop. You don't have to go to zero, but you can just cut down.
Cut down. And the more, if you want to get more shredded, it has to cut down more. Once you reach a certain level of fitness and you're like, all right, I'm enjoying this. I want more of it. And those are eventually going to fall out. So I've been depressed. I've been suicidal. And when I was abusing substances, the two things I did not stop was that I did not stop going to work and I did not stop working out. That's like a given. You have to do it. Now, if you're still going to work, if you're still going to work out, that's going to suffer. You're not going to reach your peak ability, right? So eventually you're going to have to make a choice. If I want to thrive in my work environment, in my business, and the gym, I have to cut these other things out. So two things cannot exist in the same life. So either the gym and work is going to go, and the drugs and alcohol and the partying and the loose women are going to win, or the gym is going to thrive and the business is going to thrive. So I just always tell people, find an exciting goal that is going to make you do all the things that you have to do to improve all areas in life. And what I realized that just getting jacked, just getting in shape solves most, if not all, of your problems. And that's why I'm in this business.
Yeah. Dude, I fucking love it, man, because you're really smart when it comes to like the psychology of it, the mindset of it. You know, no wonder you're a fan of Jordan Peterson and like, you know, like that type of knowledge and wisdom. But you're also, you know, you take the time and are truly invested in diet, nutrition, you know, actual exercises, you know, all that type of stuff for your clients. So, you know, walk us through a little bit about your business and, you know, how you approach clients. Like, what can people expect if they come to you as a client, let's say?
Okay. So the reason why I can be so good at coaching and relate with people and get a more, how should I say, simple and exciting approach to getting better, getting in shape, making more money, having better relationships is because I've been on the other side. I've been fat and broke and insecure and depressed. And when a person is fat, broke, insecure, and depressed, like for some people, that whole tough love works, but for me, it didn't. You know, like I want to talk with love. So like I can get into that fat, broken, insecure kid. And every time if I would go yell at that guy, like if I showed up to my own self 15 years ago, I would scare the shit out of myself. Like I would never listen to me, right? So that's the approach that I want to take. But then if you start, the approach that I took is like, all right, I want to get in shape, then this is going to be my number one goal. So I remember working out 6-7 days a week, walking around with Tupperware containers and not having a life. I couldn't go out to eat. I didn't have friends. I didn't have a girlfriend. And frankly, I was waiting tables. So I made fitness the number one priority. Right? So everything was revolving around fitness. And I was broke. So one of the biggest reasons why my clients who are hyper successful have had their health decline is because they think that that's what they need to do. And in all honesty, when you look at the fitness industry for the most part, and you look at how well the coaches that I hired, the approach that they're taking, that it has to be dialed in. You have to do your cardio and this and that. I wouldn't want to do it either. And at a certain point when I was 26, 27, even though I got lean, even though I got some a bunch of results, I just didn't want to do it anymore because I'm like, I have no friends. I can't talk to girls. I'm not making any money. So what am I? I'm shredded. That's not making me happy. So where I come into play is I take these clients with just 2 workouts a week, not doing any additional cardio, and not weighing and measuring their food. I get them nasty shredded and in the best shape of their lives. And that's where my education comes into place. Because like my background is not in fitness. I'm a double major in economics and mathematics. And I'm book smart, but I'm not street smart. I was shit at taking interviews and this and that. And once I got my green card, I didn't have to get a job related to my field to stay in the country. I fucked off, started waiting tables and doing that all that nonsense. But at some point, because I've done research, I know how to read research papers and studies, and I studied biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics at a very deep level, even before I came to the country. I started looking into all that stuff. And I realized 99% of the stuff being sold is like not only wrong, but it's ineffective and mostly detrimental. So around 27, when I was like going through my divorce, I decided to have my knee surgery. So I was born with a deformed knee, where I would flex and my kneecap would go out of place. 4 doctors said that they couldn't get it couldn't get fixed. So because I'm hard-headed, I went to the 5th one. And the first person that said yes, I just went for it. So during that time, I was staying by myself for 2 months. I was on crutches. And I started reading books on nutrition, doing research on training methodology. And just by being on crutches, without doing any cardio, within 3 to 4 weeks, I was able to get abs. So I'm like, now I'm on to something.
Yeah.
And slowly, after helping out 1 friend, 2 friend, 3 friend, I created this methodology where I'm taking 40, 50-year-old, 60-year-old men working out 2-3 hours a week, eating as much as they possibly would want to, and seeing the same results that you would get with 5 or 6 workouts a week, then doing a cardio, then being hungry all day. And I was able to do that because I have a good understanding of the fact that there is a huge difference between what you want a body to do in response to a certain stimulus versus what your body actually wants to do, right? Because like we always think like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to cut some calories, I'm going to do some cardio, I'm going to go into a calorie deficit, and this is the way my body should respond. You don't have a conversation with your body like, hey, I'm going to starve you for a little bit, I'm going to put you some stress, but once you look the way I want you to look, I'm going to stop doing this shit to you. No, your body only gets 2 stimuli. I'm surviving or I'm dying. If I get cold, my body is going to start shaking because it's like I might die of hypothermia, so I have to bring up this kinetic energy, right? So if I touch something hot, it instantly goes back. Why? That's a defense mechanism. So if you take a car and you don't put gas in it and you keep driving it for a long time, it's eventually going to stop. So if your body does not adapt to the calorie deficit and you doing more work, right? Eventually it's going to die because you're putting in less input and you're requiring more output. Why does it not? Because it figures out how to survive on those low calories and that excessive output that you're creating. And most of the time, that adaptation is not what you expect.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's basically it. So like, for example, if you don't put gas in the car and you keep driving it, it's gonna stop, right? So now the gas mileage on the car, a car that gives 50 miles per gallon, right? So it burns through gas faster. That's comparable to somebody like you who has a fast metabolism. Now, a Prius that gives, let's say, oh, actually, I had it the opposite way. So if you're looking at, like, let's say a Ferrari that gives 12 miles per gallon, that's an example for you, right? Fast metabolism pisses through gas. And now a slow metabolism would be a Prius that goes 50 miles per gallon or whatever. So let's say I'm a car and I'm just going to put my body into a calorie deficit. I'm going to put less calories, trying to burn more. Now, again, after a few weeks, your body doesn't know when this stimulus is going to stop. So if you're giving it less calories, it's going to figure out how to survive on those less calories. So how it's going to do that, it's going to change the thyroid hormone, which controls the metabolism, right? So how many people have you, we've all heard about these people like, hey, I lost all this weight and I gained it all back. We hear this over and over again. All right, so you took a car, you put less gas in it and kept driving it over and over again. Your body, which is your car, says, fuck, I'm eventually going to die. So how do I figure out how to survive on these calories?
How to go further with less gas.
Exactly. So I'm going to turn myself from a Ferrari to a Prius. And nothing against anybody who drives a Prius, great car. So it's going to start lowering its thyroid. So it's going to burn the calories slower, the exact opposite of you want. Now, the other thing that I also learned, which was flawed, was instead of looking at a workout as this workout is going to affect my body this way, just look at the task at hand and think about what kind of body is going to be really, really good at performing that task, right? So a lot of times people who have higher body fat levels, right, they'll go to the elliptical or the Stairmaster, right? So now look at the stimulus. Now you have a chunky butt with high body fat, lower muscle mass, going up the stairs for a long period of time in a calorie deficit, right? And then there's somebody like you, right? Fast metabolism, burns through, you really don't have a lot of stores, right? So let me ask you a question. So let's say somebody with a high level of body fat is walking up the stairs and you're walking up the stairs, right? Now, or let's say on an incline without food and you're going to go on forever. Who do you think is going to die first?
Probably the fat guy.
And that's what I usually get, right? So your metabolism is faster, you're burning through calories fast, and you don't have a lot of fat stores.
So maybe
The
me.
fat,
Maybe me.
yes.
You got less gas in the tank.
Right. And you don't have food. The chunky butt has plenty of fat, has a slower metabolism, and can go on forever. So if the stimulus is a calorie deficit and lots of cardio, your body it's in the best interest of your body to turn from fit to shit by having more fat stores. So it's going to lower the metabolism. It's going to lower the testosterone levels, which makes your body carry more muscle tissue, right? So once you put somebody in a calorie deficit and you start doing low intensity cardio where you're not creating a lot of mechanical tension through weights, your body's like, all right, so I'm getting less calories. I don't really use a lot of this muscle that I'm carrying, because most of the time when you're fat, you're carrying a lot of muscle too. And I need these fat stores. So I'm going to latch onto these fat stores by lowering my metabolism. I'm also going to lower my AGH levels, which tells my body to metabolize more fat for energy. I'm going to cut those down. And I'm going to lower my testosterone levels. Why? So every pound that I lose, it's mostly muscle that's going to eat away the calories, and less fat, which is stored calories that I need.
Yeah.
So then I turn the model upside down. Now you take the same fat guy and somebody like you, and just something standard, like let's put 100 pounds on the bar. and you keep squatting until one of you collapses. Now, which one person is going to die first or collapse first? It's the chunky butt. Why? Because you might be, how much do you weigh?
About 160.
Good. So you're moving 160 pounds. That's it. And most of it is muscle, down and up. You can go on for a long period of time. That person might be moving 200 pounds of inefficient weight.
Yeah.
He might only have 160 pounds of muscle, the same as you, but now he's moving 40, 50, 60 more pounds.
Yeah.
So the only way your body can get better from going from point A to point B is a faster metabolism. So all the calories that you have in your system can burn faster and give you the glucose that you need to create the force for the squat, right? Higher AGH levels, so your body metabolizes more fat for energy, because the less inefficient weight that you have on your body, the easier it is to take the weight from point A to point B, and higher testosterone levels because you're preserving that muscle. So if you take that chunky butt, right, or like whatever is the politically correct way of saying, I don't want to use fat, but whatever.
You can say fat.
The only way he can get better at going from point A to point B is by lowering body fat and maintaining or growing the muscle.
Yeah.
So now you look at a workout itself, and most people are thinking like, all right, these people are fat, so they are doing a bunch of cardio. And these people are shredded, so they're only going to go lift weights. And I'm the one who says, no, these guys are fat because they're doing too much cardio and eating less. And these guys are shredded because they're lifting weights and giving the body what it needs. And you get a person who's 40, 50 years old, who's making millions of dollars, and he's like, shit. Now I have to weigh and measure my food. I don't have time for this shit. Then I'm going to have to like do all this cardio. And I'm like, no, dog. Chest day, back day, leg day, and some red meat and eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they piss away body fat. And that's sold. And they're like 2 days a week, and that's it. And you've seen my before and afters. So that shit sells like hotcakes.
Yeah, it's almost like because it seems like it sounds like it makes sense, but it almost seems unconventional, right? So you get all these folks who have been like, dude, I fucking tried it. I was consistent for years, and I dropped off, and then I went back to consistent, and I dropped off. But, like, and you even mentioned earlier, it's hard to lose the weight, but it's so much easier to regain it again, right? So that's why it's like, if someone gets, heavy or overweight, it's like, dude, you got to fucking get rid of that, or else it's just you're adding a higher threshold, for what your body can take and kind of keep on. But it sounds like, unconventional, but it's been working, right? Like you have clients, things are going well. And I know one thing that you and I talked about last time that I really appreciated was, depending on who you're working with, you're going to customize that routine and customize the solution for that individual. And, I was talking about someone that I knew someone that I know that's extremely unhealthy. They don't work out. They're really weak right now. And it's like, fuck, man, thinking about working out a couple hours a week is like such a seems like an unachievable goal for them, but it's like, hey, start with smaller steps, work your fucking way up,
Well, yes, absolutely. And the other thing is, my approach is that you're better off working out because it takes time for your body to respond to your stimulus. And I'm not playing the calorie in, calorie out game. I'm changing the entire internal management system. So I'm playing with hormones, and those hormones need some time to change. So you're better off working out 2 days a week for 6 months than working out 5 days a week for 1 month. So my approach is that once you made a positive change, like for example, this, right? I'm a part of the group. I didn't come to this group like, hey, I'm going to come here every single week, once a week, and I'm going to get what I want for 3 months, and I'm going to fuck off. No, my thing is, I enjoy this. I like you guys. I know, like what you're about. Sometimes it's going to be video games. I like video games. Sometimes it's going to be cigars.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to be steak. So this is something that I enjoy. I want it to be a part of my life. So this is going to go on forever. So once you understand that I'm going to do this forever, then why does it even matter how long it takes? Because people ask me all the time, how long will it take? Well, my first question is, well, how much do you want? The more you want, the longer it's going to take. But when you've made a decision that this is something that's healthy, that you should be doing for the rest of your life, then why does it matter? You're going to get there when you get there.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. Thinking about what you said right now, it's kind of the way I thought about the group itself, because originally I started, I'm like, well, what are like all my friends like to do, Video games, steaks, cigars, having a drink or two now and then, and building out those ideas to have more guys join the group. And I don't care where it goes. Like you said, I've made a lifelong commitment to this to be something that I want to foresee and see it through to the end, till I'm gone one day, and so it doesn't matter how many guys come or go, because if I just stick with this and keep doing what I'm doing, people will come. I'm going to enjoy it no matter what, And most of the core guys in the group that have joined, they all enjoy the activities that we do,
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like what you're saying, because I learned this in business too, because you're more in tune with the activity rather than the outcome. Because if you enjoy the activity and you put your heart and soul into the activity, the outcome's going to come.
Yeah.
But if you make the pure focus, I want the biggest group in San Diego, this and that, and that would rub off wrong.
Yeah.
And people like me, I wouldn't have come back. But when I came over here, you didn't ask for anything. You just wanted me to have a good time, connect, and I was honored to come over here. And because of that, because I felt comfortable, I want to come in more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you talked about this earlier, about how there are certain groups that have this attendance policy and this and that. As soon as it becomes work and you have to do it, you don't feel like coming in.
Exactly.
The fact that there's no attendance policy makes me want to come here more and more.
Exactly.
It's almost like the concept of friction, which is something I talk about a lot, because, I'm someone, I love soccer, right? Like, I'm fucking terrible at basketball. You're not going to catch me playing golf. I know what I like, right? I play soccer twice a week, yes, because I love it and it's fun, but it's also good for me. Like, I'm getting cardio, 5 miles every time I play, right? But if I didn't have soccer, would I be out there jogging or running? Like, probably not, you know what I mean? But the fact that I have a fun way to run 10 miles a week, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm like fucking excited to play. And if it rains and our game gets canceled, I'm like pissed off and upset. So it's that concept of friction where it's like, dude, I'm not, if I'm talking to someone who's overweight and they like soccer, they like fucking basketball, go do that, because it's a pain in the ass to get on a treadmill or, run around or whatever. But that concept of friction makes it much easier for me to want to do it and actually get it done.
Yeah, yeah. And then that's actually brings me back to that when you were talking about how my clients, I just require them to work out 2 days a week if that's what they want, because I believe that you can cut down the effectiveness of the activity a little bit to make it drastically more way more enjoyable, so that the person wants to do it.
And they actually do it now.
And actually that result, you can turn down the effectiveness a little bit, but just because they're going to do it long term, they're going to see more results.
Yeah.
So when I have clients come in and if I know that certain exercises or pushing them to come in 4 days a week, it's going to make them want to hate it, they're actually not going to last that long. And I'm a big advocate of this idea that if, how people say, I hate working out, but I love the results. I'm like, you know what? If you hate it that much, don't do it.
Yeah.
You're going to be miserable. I don't think people should do anything that they really, really hate. I believe that my program is very effective, but I would gladly refer a client to another trainer whose program they enjoy more, because they're actually going to go and do it. Because my goal is not to get as many people on my program as possible. My goal is to help get as many people fit and healthy as possible.
Yeah.
Through my training or somebody else's.
Yeah. I love it, man. You know, big part of the podcast is really getting into the mind of people, right? And like clearly you're someone who's motivated, you've seen low lows and you've climbed your way out of it. Like you're authentic, right? You don't bullshit, right? You give it to people straight. And so I want to know a little bit more about like how you got to where you are today and like how your mindset morphed over time. And usually a place where I like to start is your origin story, right? So, you know, tell us a bit about where you were born, what that was like growing up, what your parents were like, if they were involved, if they weren't. Maybe we can start there, and then, you know, Gabe and I will chime in and ask questions.
So, I mean, I'll talk about like the struggles and all that stuff, but like I got into this, how should I, rut of really saying, whoa, it's me, I went through some bad stuff, and this is, and you start wearing it as a badge of honor. And after talking to so many people, I'm like, everybody has this rough. Most people have it rough.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go around and bitch about how my life was, but like, I mean, I was a fat kid growing up. I was bullied, abused here and there, and like my relationship with my parents were decent, but my dad was an alcoholic. My mom did antidepressants and alcohol. So but I will say, man, I'm happy the way I am.
Yeah.
I have a really good life. I went through college, and no matter whatever mistakes my parents did, they created this person. So they did a fucking good job, right? And dude, I'm 39 years old. I'm going to have my first kid after I'm 40. I couldn't even imagine having a kid at 27. I was a fucking idiot, right? So my parents had me when they were like 26, 27 years old. So props to them. They did a great job.
And in a whole nother country, though, too. You know, I think
Yeah.
it's definitely something we don't want to underestimate, because life outside these borders, and especially people who are fucking born and raised here, I think don't understand the struggle and the difference of what it's like growing up in a fucking third world country, right?
And then like, well, I don't mean to like just go against what you're saying, but like I do understand how people don't who grow up with an easier life compared to other countries or third world countries they don't have an idea of how good their life is. But I used to think that too. But after so I've lived 20 years in Pakistan and 20 years in this country, and I thought that, so I wasn't very well off growing up. I didn't even have a cell phone, didn't have a car. I remember sleeping on the floor, me, my brother, and my sister on the floor, and my parents on the bed, because we could only afford air conditioning in one room. When we built our house, there was only one room that was built, and the rest of the house was under construction. And we're living in that room. And we had light and gas and stuff like that. So when you're well, sorry.
ChatGPT's chiming in.
Yeah. Like, I'm not talking to you, bro. So growing, I wouldn't say poverty, but I wasn't really well off, and the people and kids in my school had a lot more.
Yeah.
When you're growing up at that level, all you want, like your number one source of happiness, you think, is just going to be financial gains, you know? And watching television. I had come to America one time in 1992, and I came to the UK in 1991, and I basically just went to the major cities, New York and this and that, and based on television, you're like, oh, America's just doing way better than us. And I thought, I'm just going to hop on the plane, come all the way over here, and life would be great.
Yeah.
And after 20 years of living in this country, I realized everybody kind of sort of has it exactly the same. So yes, people in America have it a little bit better, but when I lived over here, I look at the people, the homeless people, and then some of the low-income housing. I'm like, bro, everybody kind of sort of has it the same. And I think I grew up towards the end of the time that I had in Pakistan. I grew up better than a lot of people over here. I never cooked. I never cleaned. I mean,
you had family and parents.
I had
that
family
looked
and
after
parents. So just going back to what you're saying, yes, people don't understand how third world countries have it bad, but I mean, third world countries also don't understand, bro. Just going to America is not gonna change everything.
Yeah.
You have to get your shit kicked in and really grind hard to make it happen. So I think that if you're the guy who's going to be successful and have a good life and have an intentional life, you can do it in America and you can do it in Pakistan.
And so when you grew up, was it like, were your parents you mentioned they were very intentional. I believe they were religious, right? So you came up, with a religious structure, or was it something where you kind of just, maybe you didn't believe in all that stuff, or like what was going through your mind during those younger ages? Did you think your parents were right about things? Did you like resist against them, kind of rebellious in many ways, or what was that like?
In Muslim countries, Pakistan, the Middle East, UAE and stuff, like, we don't have a lot of rebellion when it comes to religion. Like, it's a blind faith belief system. So my mom was religious, my dad wasn't, because my dad's a pilot. So he was a pilot, so he was flying all over the place. He was drinking this and that, and
he was seeing the world outside your town.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So I was like locked in that bubble. Islam was the way to go. All other religions are wrong. So like I grew up pretty religious. I never rebelled. I fasted 30 days for Ramadan. I prayed 5 times a day. I had like about half the Quran memorized. It wasn't until I came to the US when the rebellion started. But
the sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say, man, and so I know that, right, I don't know which side it is, but it says Zarin. That's my mom's name, Zareen. And I got that tatted on my face for her birthday. It was kind of a funny thing because she hates tattoos. Every single time
every mom,
yeah. So like every time I got her a tattoo, she's like, "Beta means son." Like, is that permanent? I'm like, well, they pierced my skin and put ink in it, so this is as permanent as it gets. And she would get pissed off and annoyed and all that stuff. So I'm like, this is gonna be a mind fuck. I'm like, I have your name tattooed over here for your birthday because I love you. So like, I don't know what to think. And she's like, all right, cool, that's awesome, thank you. But here's the thing, man. Up until 20 years old, right? When I was following Islam, I was staying away from sex, drugs, rock and roll, listening to my mom. Dude, I went from repeating grade 8 because I sucked at math to getting straight A's in math, being able to apply for college, getting a full ride, come all the way over here. Like, and something that I never imagined would be possible, right? And I worked at Pizza Hut to like pay for the living expenses. I was doing great, up and up and up. And then at 20, I'm like, hey, I know better than my mama. I don't need religion, because I started listening to Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, which are very famous atheists. Yep. And then Bill Maher, I read the book, The God Delusion. And then when I came to college, that was the first time I realized it was really cool not to believe in God, right? It was kind of lame to believe in God. All the cool people believed in science and this and that. Like I would walk into an area and this guy would be reading the Bible and like laughing at it. And like, I was kind of turned off by it, but like you kind of start assimilating, right? You want the drugs, you want the alcohol, you want like premarital sex.
We all want to fit in a little bit,
yeah,
to some degree, you know.
And then we're like, what does all religion advise you against? Like pleasure and lust. Like, sex is not a sin, lust is a sin. Eating good food is not a sin, but gluttony is a sin. So it's all your pleasure instincts that all religions try to control. So I'm like, I want to drink alcohol. I want to touch some titties.
Yeah.
I want to eat some pork. So I'm like, so I started finding reasons to justify. I thought at that time, I'm like, oh, I'm progressive. I believe in science. I'm not backwards. But all I was doing was making excuses to eat whatever the fuck I wanted to eat, drink what I wanted to drink, and have sex with whoever I want. And from 20 to 30, I saw my life decline. Like at around 25, 26, hours a month, waiting tables, not using my degree, not doing anything worthwhile with my life. And at 30, I realized, man, like it's not about religion. It wasn't about like specifically Islam, but if it was about controlling your pleasure-seeking instincts.
Yeah. It's about
And living
good
a
habits.
Yeah, good habits. And that's all that Islam did for me.
Yeah.
Kept me away from all that bullshit. So now I'm living my life as a Muslim without the rituals. Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned that because Gabe and I actually we bonded over that during our discussion where I think neither of us grew up religious, right? So it just that's part of our fucking culture, especially being in California. It's like secular is just even if there are good people, shitty people out there, religious or not. We ourselves didn't grow up religious, but I think we both have an appreciation for what religion serves. And in my view, from my journey and my perspective, it's all about managing, the devil on your shoulder versus the angel on your shoulder, right? We all have these temptations to fucking cheat on our girlfriends or do drugs or fucking do shitty things. But maybe it's not good for us in the long run. And in my view, even, again, I didn't grow up religious. I considered myself an atheist in for most of my life. But I was always a big believer in evolution, right? So evolution meaning, hey, humans, we just want to survive better for longer, right? So what the hell can we do to like live better, longer, suffer less? We went from hunting and gathering to agriculture. So now all of a sudden we can fucking live longer, right? And, so all that good stuff. And so the way I see religion is humans that wanted to suffer less, all we did was compile wisdom over thousands of years of learning to say, hey, how the fuck can we live better among ourselves and then with our fellow neighbors to live longer and suffer less and not try to kill each other all the time? So I think every society, China, they had Buddhism, India had fucking Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, like whatever the fuck it was, but it's just a compilation of wisdom and best practices for us to suffer less. Like that's how I see it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think when you look at like when organized religions started to come around, a lot of the lessons civilization already been around for a few 100,000 years, because we don't know a lot about pre-Christian religions, besides Zoroastrianism and some of the other ones, but like they've learned from that stuff. So you're right, the collective knowledge, like, as much as I've liked to indulge in many things over the years, I realize sometimes it's fun, but you also see like how that destabilizes society. If I partake in it on a one-on-one level, doing my fun stuff on the side or whatever I do, if everybody indulges in those things, you definitely see how it would destabilize society if everybody's indulging in their worst practices, That's why I believe, like, even going back, like he was saying, I was never raised religious. Both my parents were raised Catholic, Mexican, obviously, so it's pretty common. And my mom kind of had a falling out with the church because of the way they treated women, which I understand completely. And I've never specifically practiced any religion, but I studied it in college, as part of my minor. And learning all those lessons, I came to have appreciation for it, and you can take bits and pieces from each one depending on where you stand with that. And there's a lot of good things that I think can help people on a guiding life pathway, let's say.
And about what you said and about bits and pieces from each one, well, I believe like if you take away rituals and the specific stories that go along with the religion, they're all kind of sort of teaching the exact same thing. Which religion says it's okay to lie? Which religion says it's okay to cheat and steal? But now there are two individuals like yourself who are going to use reason and rationality to understand, hey, it's probably best, probability analysis wise, if I want a healthy, happy life where I'm successful, it's probably not a good idea to go around lying. It's probably not a good idea to go around cheating. But you guys are unique individuals. So for somebody like me, and I would say the majority of people who cannot come to that conclusion themselves, what is going to stop them from doing those bad things when nobody is looking? And that's where that concept of God comes in. So I believe that at night, you don't stop at the stoplight because it's the right thing to do or you might get into an accident. Most of the time, we stop because there's a fucking camera and we're going to get a ticket. Right?
Exactly,
And that's where the concept of God comes in. But then people, like, even after I went through my atheist phase and all that stuff, I'm like, all right, whether there is a God or not, if you really think about it, Islam is saying don't drink indulgent substances and alcohol. And I don't judge people who drink alcohol. It's just the way I am. I'm a do or die guy. I thought I was just going to get this one tattoo and then see what the fuck happened. So I'm like all in or all out. So when religion is talking about, hey, don't commit adultery, you'll go to hell. Don't commit murder, you'll go to hell. If you really start thinking about it, you don't have to wait till the end. You'll experience hell on earth.
Oh, yeah.
Go around getting fucked up all the time. You will experience hell on earth. Go around like being debaucherous, you will experience hell on earth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to rhyme it because it's interesting. I've talked to Lee about this and a few of my other friends, but I grew up in a very stable house. You know, I lost my mom when I was young, but I never had like a bad childhood. So I was always like you, very intelligent class, top of my class for everything in sports, all the stuff. Had very good childhood. And I think when I got to college, I was like, I want a little instability in my life. I want to do fun things. I want to do all that. I'm tired of like going by the book for everything.
Little fucking anarchy.
Yeah. Well, it's just like I cheated. I drank. I never did it excessively. But then I think the thing that was hard with me as I age and I'm reeled myself back in, my ego got in the way. You know, it's like, well, I can do it. Nobody's watching. You know, who the fuck cares?
Like, you think you can get away with it?
If I think I can get away with something, I'll get away with it. You know, I'm very intelligent in that way, but I've had to reel myself back in because I'm like, no, this is not good for, like, even if I can do it, it doesn't mean I should do it, you know, because even if I don't, it doesn't eat away at me. It still has an impact on the people around me in some capacity, and you do get your karma. And when I started to reel myself back in was with not my current girlfriend, my last one. I had made some dumb mistakes, you know, with my previous ones, and then I got it all paid back in full from her.
Oh, yeah.
I learned what it was like to be on the other side of the receiving end, and it hurts, man.
That real life karma. Huh?
Yeah, and that really changed my perspective on stuff, because for so long, I don't know if you ever went through this, where you're just like, you feel like you're invincible, you can get away with anything, and you don't, like, I don't know, think about the hurting that I've done to other people, with girlfriends especially, not really my friends or anything. But when I got that paid back in full, it was a rude awakening for me. So it's interesting that you bring that stuff up, like having the hell on earth.
And then it's like when we talk about karma, it becomes like this magical hand of God. But
like
if you
mystical,
but if you just practically start thinking about it, right? So let's say just one specific example, like you're going around. If you cheat here and there, right? So you develop a certain characteristic, right? That you can hide stuff. Like there's something off about you, right? There's a personality trait that changes. And most people can't see it, right? But here's the thing. Now that you've adapted that and you're okay with it, in a very subtle way, without you even knowing it, you're going to respond to the same, you're going to get attracted to the same personality.
Yeah.
And that's what brought forth that person that did that to you.
Yeah. No, you're right.
No.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson said, he's like, I found this out, and he's like, this is scary and dangerous, but you do not get away with anything. Yep. Anything. Like because like the way he explains it, and I understand it really well, like once you change the fabric of reality, right? You did something, but you're presenting it yourself like you didn't. Just that's going to trickle in everything. The way you talk to me, the way you shake somebody's hands, the way you go outside and deal with your boss. Like, for example, like I wouldn't say anger issues, because it just, sometimes it sounds cooler, like, oh, I have anger issues. But like, I can be an asshole, right? And I noticed that, so the people that you love the most and who love you the most, you can get away with the most shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, for example, I've known you for a month or so, right? We all know there's a line we can't fucking cross, right? Because with men, it's going to come to blows. Like if you're right, like there are ways that I have talked to my brother, who's 10 years younger than me, and he's talked to me, and we've let it slide. We forgave each other. But I guarantee if you and I have that thing, you're like, all right, Mo's a dickhead. I never want to see him again, right? So there's this line that I'm not going to cross, right? And like I say, fear comes before respect. We have a fear of losing this relationship, so we're on our best behavior. But when I'm at home with my fiance, there's some shit that comes out of your mouth that you can get away with, and you say it's okay. But here's the thing. If you do it over and over again, you're going to develop that character. And eventually, that character that you're only holding behind closed doors, it's going to go out with friends, with your clients. And I see myself being an asshole. So that is just an example of behind closed doors where one person is looking. And then cheating is an example of nobody looking. But whenever you do something wrong, whether you're doing it one person around knowing it or 0 people knowing it, you're developing a character that you're going to bring into this world. And that character deserves shit, and you will get shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
No, and it's and on the same side of that coin, you know, just as you can have bad habits, lie, you know, listen to the devil on your shoulder and experience hell on earth, you can also listen to the angel on your shoulder and have heaven on earth, right? If you do all the good habits, like you said, like your fucking journey, right? Going through like experiencing low lows, changing your habits, changing your mindset. Now all of a sudden you're fit, you're healthy, you're in a relationship that you like, you're moving into a nice house, like things are going well for you, but it didn't just come out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
You weren't handed that. You took the right actions and took the right steps to produce that heaven on earth, right?
Yeah, and the number one thing I would say is like I just stopped being an asshole. I just started being nice to people.
Goes a long way, huh?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. And you know, how you treat others is how you're. It's just a reflection of you. It's how you're treating yourself. If you're going around being an asshole, you are being an asshole with yourself because you're wasting your time. You're putting shit in your body, right? And a lot of times you're letting other people treat you like shit too.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. And so just getting back to like your origin story, like a little bit more about. No, I love the tangents we go on. It's like, dude, because we're all we're seeing these commonalities between our own, separate lives, but there's these truisms that like every man or woman, every human goes through. That's like we can't fucking change that, right? That's why I like Jordan Peterson. But so going back to your origin story, so it sounds like, and I was going to mention this earlier. You mentioned that, in your late teens, you actually listened to your mom, and then you started getting good grades and things started going well for you. And it just made me remember when Gabe and I were talking, during our discussion, like talking about growing up. It's like, my dad doesn't know shit. I don't he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then you get older and it's like, oh shit, this guy actually fucking knows what he's talking about. I probably should have paid attention to this guy. So I'm wondering, like, what other lessons did you maybe learn, throughout your early adult life to even where you are today that, maybe your younger self would have been like, no way that's true?
Well, the first thing that all the stuff that my mom talked about where, hey, it's so crazy. Like she's like a genius. Everything that she's saying, she used to tell me like that. And I was listening to my mom because I had to, not because I wanted to. It's just the same shit that you read in every success book. So like there was a time that I was walking down. I was about 11 or 12 years old, right? And we lived in an apartment complex. And I was just walking a few blocks away to the store with my friends. And she saw me. She drove up, put me in her car, and went back. She's like, you're not hanging out with these kids. And I'm not going to talk about what reasons she had, but she's like, it's just not the right people. I don't want you to hang out with them. She's like, what are you fucking talking about? Yeah. And then we weren't really successful, financially, but we had a family, we had a good life. And my mom would always take me to these events, these gatherings, these dinners, and she's like, you have to meet these people. I'm like, well, I don't even know these people. You have to meet these people. Dress properly, clip your nose hair, all that stuff, and look presentable, and go try to develop people skills. talk to people, network, and all that stuff. So don't stay up late at night, right? Don't piss away your time. Just the same stuff that you have to do to be successful. And now, like, for example, when I got invited to this, I always try to show up on time, look presentable. And me, like, I can get socially awkward. It's hard for me to go out and new people, but I have to force myself to go meet new successful people who are thriving in areas where I can learn them from. And they don't always have to be doing better than me at everything, but like, if somebody's good at business, somebody's better at working out, people skills. Or like, for example, like when I was single, I would hang out with people who are in a long-term relationship. Just see how they talk, see how they walk, see how they communicate. So number one thing about going out and meeting people, looking presentable, staying away from drugs and alcohol. I was like, how is, and she was drinking herself. But asking me not to do it.
Yeah.
So, I know I curse here and there, but not. There's a time and a place. So I used to curse a lot on social media, and I know some people have that following. But as soon as I pulled back, people started looking at me different, and my clientele went up. So. The biggest thing that I would say is just this thing that I'm doing, networking people, because I just wanted to sit on my ass, play video games, or go to a place where I would know a few people, or I would only go do things that came under pleasure, like playing video games, playing cricket, or this and that. But when you have to go to an event, somebody's birthday, or somebody's wedding, because it's the right thing to do, it's like how you show respect, and go communicate with people, I would just be the guy sitting in the corner. And she's like, always go out, network, learn people's skills. She used to use this, expand your horizon.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned to say yes to things. So the old me, the first instinct would have been like when Drew connected me to this group, like, I don't know these people. I don't know if I'm going to like them. I have to go all the way over there. No, Mo. There are 170 something successful entrepreneurs in there, and you've only been in the game for a few years. So you're going to meet the right people.
Yeah.
So make time, take a shower, brush your teeth, go over there, and force yourself to have conversations.
Yeah, I love it, man, because it's be presentable. That was one thing you mentioned, which, I mean, me, I always like getting my fucking fresh haircut. I like to work out, take care of my health. But, let's say I'm overdue for a haircut, or maybe I'm feeling kind of shitty because I ate like crap for the past week. It impacts your mentality. Like, you really do feel like shit. And then maybe when I'm on a work call, I'm not on my A game. When I'm shaking hands with, strangers, I'm not on my A game. So it took, like, that's a big takeaway I learned as well. And you also mentioned, like, showing up. Like, it's so much easier to just fucking stay at home and take the easy path. And that was another thing that I learned, is just the difference between immediate gratification and long-term gratification. And like Jordan Peterson talks about it, right? It's like cocaine, porn, junk food, all that stuff is awesome in the fucking moment, right? But it's not good long-term. You're going to need to not cheat on your girlfriend, and it's like, but then you're going to get that kind of long-term fulfillment, long-term, happiness, whatever you want to call it. So I see it in my own life as well. So, I'm curious if, so you mentioned like your mom had a big impact on you. Did you have any mentors either at a young age, or in maybe even when you were waiting tables, or when you started your own business? Like, are there mentors that had a big impact on you and that fucking taught you stuff, took them under your wing? Because I know I did, and I know Gabe has.
Yeah, maybe a professor or something.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say like I had like a mentor, but like there was a person who had a huge impact on me. So when I was growing up, like between, well, I guess 0 to like 6, 7 years old, again, we weren't very well off. So there were a bunch of families living in one house. So there was my parents, me and my sister and I in one room. I'm a big fan of grammar. And then in one room were my dad's 2 sisters living together. In one room was my granddad. And in another room, It was my dad's brother, his wife, and his 3 kids. Wow. Yeah. And my aunt, my dad's older sister, she, I think, barely finished high school, never went to college. And she started like a Montessori, which is like kindergarten school, out of her room in that house. And I used to spend a lot of time with her. And it was kind of funny because like my mom and her, like, she loved the crap out of me. She loved me a lot. And obviously my mom loves me too. And her mom and her would butt heads because I would be being pulled left and right. I'm like, bro, I love both of you. I want to hang out. And they hated each other. But she had a big impact. And one of the reasons why I would say, decent in communicating in English and writing papers in college and all that stuff was because of her. She didn't go to college, but she was spot on in English. She was good at mathematics, and I spent a lot of time with her. And I saw her take that school from that room to one of the best Montessori schools in the city.
Wow.
And she never got married. She didn't have kids, but she was the person who spent the most amount and did the most for me and all of my cousins. And that woman has a fucking drive and work ethic, man. And then when I was in college and even over here, when I needed some help, she would send me money and all that stuff. So she was the one who made a huge, huge, huge impact. And right now we're talking about men and being disciplined and all that stuff. But the biggest impact that a person had, the 2 people who had the biggest impact on my life were 2 females, my mom and my aunt.
Yeah.
So my aunt, like real, true grit, hard work, entrepreneurship, I learned from that woman.
Yeah. Dude, I love that, man, because, I resonate with it. And, I've talked to both of you about this, but my mom, one of my heroes, right? Like she fled a communist country, like on a fucking small fishing boat with like 170 people. Look, like she always describes it as ants on a piece of candy on the floor, just swarming out of there, like crazy journey, right? Refugee for 12 months, made it here, loves this fucking country, but every time I didn't want to do my fucking homework, slaps me across the face and is like, dude, you better work your fucking butt off. So she was a big influence on me, and like, seeing her go from low lows to high highs, showed me like, okay, it's possible. It's something that, hey, even if things suck in the moment, like fucking, it was a big motivator, right? Mm-hmm. But also my oldest sister, so like I'm youngest of 6, and my oldest sister's like, leader of the pack, right? Mm-hmm. She's 4'10", small Vietnamese woman, but total business shark, makes the most money in our family, like kills it, super hard worker, all this good stuff, but total motivator, right? So it's like similar to you, hey, I had an awesome dad, I had all these great men in my life, but I also, don't want to neglect the fact that there was a lot of strong women that influenced me and made me the man that I am. So I completely resonate.
So just one part I want to talk about my origin story, and then I think you asked me something along the lines of like what made that shift, and I'm gonna tie it into why I take such a should I say it? Well, easy breezy approach to getting better, because I'm like just focused on a superficial goal. Is after I graduated from college, so the way it works with foreign students is after you graduate from college, you have a 1-year work permit. That's it. And then you have to go home. So you either go to grad school, and then you can stay longer and then become a professor and then get a visa and all that stuff, which I didn't want to do. I fucking hated school. Yeah. And I couldn't get a job out of college because it was 2009, the economy was crashed. So why would they sponsor an international person when they have all these unemployed people? And plus, I was shit at taking interviews and all that stuff. I didn't know how to write a resume. I was book smart. I graduated with a decent GPA, like
got the thick accent at the time.
Yeah, exactly, right? All that stuff, but I couldn't get a job. So I'm like, all right, I'm eventually gonna go home, that was my only option, and I'm just gonna write it out. But I was living with my girlfriend at the time, who I met my senior year in college, and she's like, well, what can we do for you to stay over here? I'm like, well, we can get married, but I don't know if you want to do that. And she's like, yes, yes, please stay. And I'm like, called my dad. I'm like, and I'm not like using her for her. I was in love with her. I wanted to be with her for the rest of my life. And I couldn't tell this to my mom didn't even know that I had a white girl living with me. Like, that's 100% haram. So I told my dad, he's like, son, this kind of opportunity only comes to you once in a while. You say yes before she changes her mind. So we got married, we had a happy life, everything. And then I'm like, all right, now I'm getting a green card. Now I don't have to use my degree. Yeah. I'm just, bro, I'm having fun. I'm having sex. I'm drinking alcohol. I'm making some money waiting tables, more than what I was making in college. I have a good life. I have a car. I have a cell phone. Mm-hmm. So I gave up my hopes and dreams. Then I came over here to California. And look, this is not me bashing my wife or anything. Like, I believe in this. Like, I read this book from Grant Cardone, and like one of the things in this book, the 10X rule, he says, nothing happens to you, everything happens because of you. Everything was my fault, the way I played that game.
Ownership.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I believe the man is the leader of the relationship. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying like you tell the woman what to do, but like you're leading the relationship. So if it went to shit, it was still my fault. If you pick the wrong partner, that's your fault too. So she fell in love with her tattoo artist. She asked me to get out of the house, pay for her loans and the rent while they live together. And then her thing was, you do this or I'm going to call immigration and tell our marriage is a scam.
Damn.
Because I'm still on that 2-year probation period. So, all right. So I'm getting a divorce. I'm living by myself. And the 2-year probation period goes away. I get my citizenship. And now I'm sitting at 27 years old. I'm like, all right, bro. You came over here to make some money, have a good life. Now you're 27. You haven't used your college degree. You're making $2,000 a month. And I'm an atheist at that point because, like, the whole thing about Islam, and I'm pretty sure Christianity has it too, but I'm not sure, that suicide is straight to hell. Yeah. That's it. Done.
Yeah.
So I can't commit suicide, but I'm miserable. Now you take that God away from you. I'm like, bro, like, my life sucks. I'm a drunk. I'm doing drugs. I'm waiting tables. My life is not going anywhere. I don't really have a good relationship, any true homies, because, I mean, how many people do you actually, I mean, I was working at the old spaghetti factory. Yeah. You know, like, I mean, Drew was cool and all, but like, you don't meet the right people. You don't meet people like you. So I'm like, bro, fuck this thing. I'm done with my life. And then I'm like, okay, Mo, if you're going to die and you're going to end this all, what's the one thing you want to do before you die? I'm like, I just wanted to be jacked because I was still a chunky butt. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get in shape. What's getting in the way? My knee, because when I would flex, it would pop out of place. Mm-hmm. So I had deformed knees. I'm like, all right, bro, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to find this one doctor who's going to fix my knee. And I'm going to get jacked. And then I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. Like one day I was like sitting on my couch. I'm like, well, if I die, right before I die, what are you going to do? I'm going to drink a bunch of whiskey. I'm going to eat a big old chocolate cake. So I got a bottle of whiskey. Ate this entire piece of chocolate cake, and I woke up. I'm like, well, that was amazing. What if I keep doing this and then see what happens? Then I started living my life that way. I'm like, I'm only going to do shit that I want to do. So then I'm like, all right, bro, I don't care about money. I don't care. I'm like, my wife is gone. I had a tough time getting girls anyways. So I'm like, all right, let's get this knee surgery and see what happens. So I got that knee fix, and bro, I came home after the surgery. I came back in an Uber. The morphine wore off, and it was the worst pain. Like I've ever, like wow. I wouldn't wish that on my biggest enemy. And I know I'm going on a rant again, but that night, so I was prescribed oxycodone. So I was supposed to take a quarter of the pill every 2 hours. So I took a quarter. And about half an hour went by. And I'm like, fuck. Then I'm like, I'll take another quarter. Then I took the whole thing. And I'm like, fuck this. Then it was so bad, I picked up 2 other pills and I either chewed them up, drank it with Diet Coke. And I'm like, bro, why is this not kicking in? It's been hours. It had been 15 minutes. Bro, it was so bad that I had lost all track of time. I woke up a day and a half later.
Wow.
And I would wake up, take my medicine, crush to the gym. Come back, eat food. Wake up, take my medicine, go crush to the gym. And then I started seeing some results. And because I was getting lean and I didn't want to drink beer, so at night, because I had nothing to do, it was a boring life. But I'm like, all right, I'm just going to spark a joint, drink some whiskey. I had to take those pills because I'm in constant pain, so I can't even sleep. So during that night, I would be like, man, I'm actually really excited. My knee's going to get fixed. Hopefully I recover properly. I'll be able to put on some, because like there's no point in getting your upper body jacked if your legs don't match, right? Yeah. So that was the whole point. And I'm like, man, I don't really need anybody. It's really nice. I didn't realize until later that I was just getting high off the oxycodone and whiskey.
It was the good stuff.
Yeah, right? The good stuff. And then slowly, I'm like, in order to get more jacked, I have to cut down this alcohol a little bit. All right, cool. I can't be eating all this garbage. All right, cool. Let's stay consistent. And it was this one superficial goal. But what that did was, in order to achieve that goal, the alcohol had to go. The substance abuse had to go. The shitty friends had to go. And then what I realized, that if I'm consistent, if I can have pain tolerance, if I can go long term into one goal, I can get better at something that, like I didn't, besides math and stuff like that, I didn't consider myself good at anything. I wasn't the funny guy. I wasn't good at, like, socializing and all that stuff. But I got really, really good at bodybuilding and changing my physique. I got lean to the point where guys were coming up to the gym, like veins popping out everywhere. Like, whoa, how do you get this lean? And then I joined a CrossFit gym. And the first workout I did was 100 burpee pull-ups for time. And I was a 135-pound shredded dude. And I go up to a coach, and I'm like, what do you mean 100 burpee pull-ups for time? And she's like, you do a burpee, you do a pull-up, and you stop when you've done 100 of them. And the person who does this the fastest is going to win. Bro, I'm willing to die. Bro, I beat everybody, even the coaches. That was like my first win in life. And that just started trickled into a snowball effect. I'm like, oh shit. Well, what else do I want to do? I want to make more money. Same process over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. So years later, now when somebody comes up to me, I'm like, I'm depressed. This is not going. Relationships aren't. I'm not making a lot of money. I'm like, bro, just get shredded. Just get shredded. Don't think. Well, how? Don't worry about it. Like, I've had people who worked at Ralph's come up to me, and they would. His mom would help him out, because like training is expensive. So he would pay half. His mom would pay half, and he wouldn't have a car. And then he would have scheduling issues. Oh, my mom took the car and this and that. And he was a grown-ass man, but he would like tear up and this and that. And I had I felt for him, because I literally saw myself 10 years ago. I was that guy who would tear up. I was that guy who would be insecure. And I looked at him. I'm like, bro, if he doesn't make any change, the world's going to eat him up alive. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, bro, look, you're not identifying the problem. He's like, yeah, because my mom doesn't know my schedule. She doesn't care about my... I'm like, no, that's not your problem. He's like, well, what is my problem? I'm like, your fucking problem is you don't have a car. He's like, okay, I don't have a car. I'm like, all right, we're going to buy you a car next year. He's like, what do you mean, how are you going to buy your car next year? He's like, by getting shredded. Now, if I told him, okay, you're going to get better, you're going to get another job and this and that, he's going to get... It's too much for him. I'm like, just get shredded, have blind faith, and you're going to get a car. He's like, okay. Then he started getting shredded. He got to more energy levels. He would come in and I'm like, hey, bro, I can walk around more. And like, I like working. So my boss asked me, like, who wanted to do work overtime? So I said yes. So now they always give me overtime. He's like, yes. I'm like, well, what are you doing with the rest of your day? He's like, man, I can't go out hang out with my friends, and I can't go out and drink, so I don't know what to do. I'm like, bro, I mean, you're making more money off overtime, right? He's like, yeah. Why don't you go and get another job? You got another job. And a year later, he's coming in his brand new Subaru. I'm like, bro, what happened? He's like, bro, I get it now. I'm like, bro, but if I had told you all the shit you had to do, you would never have done it.
Yeah.
So that's what helped me produce this. Like, so whenever a guy who comes in, who's 40 years old, 50 years old, like, I'm like, this guy doesn't want to get on the fucking treadmill. Maybe the treadmill will help a little bit, but I'm just going to make this as enjoyable as possible. You want to work out one day a week? Fine, work out one day a week. But just don't stop. And eventually, I just look at the individual and I give them the easiest and most happiest play that worked for me.
Yeah.
Which was getting jacked. Saved my life.
Yeah. And it's within your control.
Yeah.
It's something to fucking aim for, man.
Yeah.
I love it. So before we wrap up, there was one story you and I talked about that like really hit me that I thought was very powerful. And it really is in the theme of, patriotism. I'm someone who's very patriotic, love this country. My mom's an immigrant, refugee, all that stuff. A lot of crazy shit going on in the world right now. But I know I usually ask people who are older than me, like, what went through your head during 9/11? And I know when I would talk to you about that, I was like, dude, this guy's got a really heartwarming, I won't steal your thunder, but, if you don't mind just touching on that for a few minutes, dude, I just thought, I thought it'd be very, very helpful for the youngsters.
So 9/11, what year was that? 2000?
01.
01, right? So 01, that's 24 years ago. So I was young. I was like 15, 16 years old. So I didn't really follow world affairs or all that much. I didn't know politics. I was just a doofus going to school, had one friend and played video games. Like, I didn't read books or anything. So I didn't know about how America's relationship with Pakistan, which country hated what. I knew we hated India for some fucking reason, based on the history that I was reading and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I hate to call out my mom, but I was at home the night before school when that actually happened. It was nighttime, and my mom got up like, and she clapped. That's right. That's what you get. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, what happened? They flew 2 planes into America. That's what they get, and this and that. I'm like, well, what about the people there? Did they do anything to us? I was just very confused because, as a kid, you don't question other people. Mm-hmm. I must be the person who's wrong because I'm just confused, right? Then I went to school the next day, and it was an assembly with 600-700 people. It was a small school, and then they went and announced what happened in America, and the entire school started clapping. And I'm just looking around and just confused. I'm like, there's something that I must be missing over here because I don't fucking get it. I don't care what happens in war. Those are soldiers going there, politicians making a decision. But those are human beings. And that was the first time I realized that, because I never had confidence in my own thought process, that I realized that maybe I don't need to agree with everything that people are saying. Mm-hmm. That kind of trickled into how my thought process in business and training methodology and all that stuff. But yeah, that was a very shocking experience. And I don't remember if I said anything more profound when we were talking.
No, that was it.
But that's pretty much it. And then, yeah, I've just never had hate for people for no fucking reason at all.
Yeah.
And it was an eye-opening moment for me. And I'm like, dude, I get politics. I understand why you're doing this. But what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And this is fucking absurd.
Yeah.
What you're doing.
Innocent people, right? It's
yeah.
like innocent women and children is separate from military attacks. And I think what spoke loudest to me was you're surrounded by people who are, clapping and you're like, wait, this doesn't align with my thinking. I don't want harm on innocent people. What the hell?
And
at a young age, you know,
Yeah.
you're kind of you're going through this mental dilemma, like what the
Yeah.
fuck?
And you know what? I think most people have heard, well, not most people, I'm just saying like herd mentality is a disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guarantee if I had a private conversation, each and every single one of them, I would find a lot of people like, hey, bro, I was just clapping because everybody else was clapping. I didn't want to say anything.
Totally, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
Anything to add on that one? Or
No, it just reminds me of a conversation I had. I was telling my girlfriend about this recently. Like, I was at the dog park, and I have some mixed views on certain things regarding trans. And I ended up meeting the most wonderful gentleman at the dog park the other day, and I talked to him for about an hour, and he was trans. And it gave you a different perspective, because I always talk, when you talk to people on a one-on-one basis, it's a lot different than, like, having your views and being stuck in the mud with how you think about certain things. But I got to know him as a person, and it was just more interesting hearing his side and some of his regrets on, like, his transition and stuff, and hearing he was an ex-military guy. And so that's immediately what popped to mind with herd mentality sometimes, you know, and even in certain things when we're, you know, herd mentality when it comes to, like, spreading rumors or things like that when we were younger, and you don't understand the impact that these things can have on people, or how another side may see it, you know. Herd mentality can be strong in many instances for certain good causes, and it's hard to say what's necessarily good or wrong. You know, we all have a different view of that, but yeah, that's an interesting thing hearing that come from you on the other side, like the whole group of people just cheering for that. You know, I've actually never heard anything like that before.
It's fucking crazy.
Because we're so in our herd mentality over here in
Yeah.
America, we don't think of the other side, like when it comes to what did other people think about 9/11 around the world, you know, at that time. You know?
And a lot of times it's not even their views, it's what is coming from the media.
like what they're taught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I experienced it again over here. Now, I don't want to go back and forth between political views, but like just me personally, I believe with my name, Mohammed Usman Hussain Ghori, I fit into the category of the person who should not be supporting President Trump right now. And when I first started seeing the media, I'm like, all right, he's banning Muslims and this and that and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck this guy. Why would he be president? And when I started actually seeing the original videos and the chopped and screwed videos and all that stuff, I'm like, bro, the major Muslim countries, like I would be waiting tables in Coronado at a fancy restaurant, you know, California, foo, serving high-end wine and all that stuff. And people would sit down at my table and they would find out where I'm from, and obviously I have an accent. They're like, I'm so sorry. What? Oh, I hope you're safe and this and that. Trump's banning countries. I'm like, and at that point I was aware of what's going on. My eyes were open, and I'm like, wow, these people are more uninformed than I am. My country is not banned. And you think with becoming the president, with all these things he needs to do, fix the economy, the borders and this and that, unemployment, he's going to be like, wait, let's put all this on hold. This Muhammad guy, this one Muhammad guy, I'm going to kick that guy. I'm like, bro, he has better things to do. So that happened to me twice. And now I just don't believe in the just majority of media and news and
like
all
that
that stuff.
mainstream
Yeah.
fucking
Like-
narrative, huh?
Yeah.
Like legacy media, you know.
Yeah,
that type of
dude.
media,
Yeah,
you know?
because like I used to work with a camera guy who did content for me, and he used to work for a news station. And the same building, there was a left-wing news station that was, leaning left, and a right-leaning. So it would be the exact same story, exact same company, and it would do a completely different script on one side, positive, negative, whatever their narrative was, and a completely different script this side. And he asked the big boss man, bro, like, isn't this misleading? He's like, look, bro, we ain't selling the news. What we're selling is commercials. We need to get people engaged, and I don't give a fuck what we're selling.
That's how this shit happens, though, huh?
Yeah.
A lot of the craziness we see around us is it's really the impact of the media, and I think that's the beauty of doing a fucking podcast. You know, it's low barrier to entry. You know, I got my own shit I'm doing. Like, you're fucking busy, you're busy, but we can come together and just have real human conversations, just like you had at the dog park, right? And we don't have to just get fed whatever. You know, even Fox News, you know, they're a little biased on the right leaning side. That's okay, and you know, CNN's biased on the left leaning side, but there's a lot of shit that, you know, people fucking want to kill each other over politics, but we actually agree on a lot, you know, more than we, you know, disagree on in some situations. And that's why I always say I'm patriotic, pro-American, because, dude, you can be whatever fucking religion or fucking skin color you want. Like, we're all fucking American. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think things like this, and that, you know, I've always, it's funny over the years, like when I was young, because I'm very much a public speaker, I love to talk, and people are like, you should have started a podcast like 10 years ago, you know, and I really appreciate you coming, you know, and meeting you and getting to know you more after our time working together and bringing something like this to the table for all of us. And I just wanted to make one example of going backtracking just two seconds here, is like just learning about legacy media, right? I'll never forget, just as an example, just how it even happens on the local level, not necessarily national news, but just like our local, like when we were younger, like the San Diego Tribune, you know, right? For example, like, I remember when my fraternity got in trouble in college, and I had just become the president, right? And the incident that had happened was before I was actually elected, but they're like, hey, they're looking to you for guidance to clean it up. And the leader of Greek life at the time, who was like the head of the school, was like, you need to speak to the newspaper, like give a thing. I learned at that level, just a small little incident in a school about hazing, right? That how much they took and nitpicked out of my actual statement, you know, and made it look like I endorsed hazing when I was just saying it's a pretty common practice.
Wow.
In like most fraternities and organizations. Not necessarily, there's some fun stuff too, like scavenger hunts, not all bad stuff, right? If I had a chance to speak about that on a podcast 20 years ago and actually give my narrative, it wouldn't have looked so bad in the newspaper at the time, you know, where it was like, a local fraternity president endorses, you know, hazing on San Diego State campus. I'm like, that's not what I said at all. You
Because
know? Like,
that's something I would pick up and read.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
Gets clicks. Gets
like-
clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if the news was like, hey, this really nice president of this really nice fraternity explains how hazing is not that bad. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah,
I want to hear
exactly.
some bad shit.
Yeah, exactly. So just that reminded me of an incident right now. You know, just reminded me of some of the things that we've seen over the years, even as young adults, children, when you read the newspaper back in the day before, you know, streaming and podcasts and stuff, you know, so it's very
On the local or global level.
Yeah.
So, dude, you know, one question as we wrap up, one question I always like to ask all the guests is just, you know, what are your hopes and dreams for the future of San Diego / America / the world? Hopes and dreams looking forward.
You know what, man?
It's a gnarly question.
No, man, it just came to me. It just came to me. I hope that good men like us, good people like us, start having more kids.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to change the future. I never wanted kids alive, but bro, another you, or more of you, this world would be a better place. And I think like the biggest joy in a man's life is like having a kid, being useful. And I think the best thing that could happen, because like with this narrative and what's going on, good, intelligent people are less likely to have kids.
Yeah.
And the shitters are popping it out. These are going to be our doctors. These are going to be our lawyers. These are going to be our personal trainers. So I just hope that more accept the responsibility of becoming a father, because like I studied hyper successful people, and one of the common traits they had, well, they either didn't drink or they didn't indulge in substances as much. They had long-term relationships, and they were fathers. So I hope people like us, men like us, have more kids, raise more kids, so they can change our future.
More good, responsible men raising humans.
Exactly.
And two other good fucking men and women.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Love that shit, dude. Well, man, I fucking really appreciate it. You know, it's an amazing community that you've built, and I know, you and I, we barely knew each other when we worked together, but we got, a few years later, got linked up, and now we see each other quite a bit. But I appreciate your time. Appreciate you, joining and sharing your life experiences, the ups and the downs, and really being a positive fucking person and trying to take what you've learned and like help younger people suffer less and fucking find their own path to happiness. So I greatly appreciate you, brother.
Bro, thank you so much for having me. And what I want to end with is we talked about herd mentality. Herd mentality works if you're in the right herd. And this is the right herd that I want to be in.
Love that.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Hell yeah, man. Alrighty, brothers.